What is most important about when you get hurt is investigating it, but having it reported like immediately. Even a few days is eons with investigations. You've been out there long enough seeing how different contractors, or even the city, they move things around, they change the cars, and something that wasn't supposed to be painted, now it's painted. A sign that wasn't supposed to be up is, voila, 4 days later it's up. But if we're coming out there in an hour or 2 hours later, it is the way it is.
If you get hurt at work, obviously the first thing that you want to do anytime you suffer an injury is to see a doctor. When you see a doctor, one of the things to keep in mind is you want to make sure that you give the doctor a proper history of the accident. You don't want to say, well, I hurt my knee. Well, how'd you hurt your knee? I hurt my knee at work. Okay, you want to make sure that that's in there. If it doesn't appear in the medical records, it could be a problem later on. You also want to mention to the doctor everything that bothers you. You may not think it's a big deal that when you fell down and you hurt your knee, that you feel a little something in your neck as well. Again, that little something may turn into a big something later on, and if it's not in the initial medical reports, that could be a problem. So again, when you get hurt, you want to make sure that you give the doctor, the hospital, wherever you go for your initial medical treatment, a thorough work history, because it's only going to help you down the road. Under the law, you're also required to give your employer notice of a work-related accident within 30 days. So if you get hurt at work, make sure you tell a supervisor or a boss. Now, oral notice is sufficient under the law, but it's always advisable to either submit something in writing or to fill out an accident report. All right, you don't just want to give the verbal notice, you don't want to give the phone call, even the text message or the email, because those things have a habit of disappearing. You want to fill out an accident report and you want a copy. That way no one can ever dispute that notice requirement, that you fulfilled that requirement. You also have to file a claim for compensation within 2 years of the accident. So there's a C3 form, and that's the form that the injured worker has to file with the Workers' Compensation Board. Generally, that's done by the attorney, but you can do it online. It's available at the Workers' Compensation Board website. You can e-file it, and it's something that you want to do to protect yourself. Again, even if it's just a bruise, a sprain, a strain, these are the things that later develop into bigger injuries or bigger problems that you didn't initially think were there. And if you fail to file the requisite forms, you could be barred from pursuing workers' compensation benefits in the future. So again, just to recap, thorough history to the doctor, notify your employer, and file a claim for workers' compensation. So now you get to the point where you have a workers' comp case. So what are you entitled to under the workers' compensation law? First off is medical treatment. Any medical treatment that you need as a result of a work-related injury is the responsibility of the job's workers' compensation insurance carrier. It's not your responsibility, and it's not the responsibility of your private health care. In fact, if your private health care provider gets wind of the fact that it's work-related, they have a substantial right to deny those bills. So if you don't file a workers' compensation claim, and you don't put the treatment through workers' comp, and next thing you know, you're getting bills in the mail, you don't want to get stuck with those bills, okay? That includes hospital visits, your regular doctor's visits, visits to specialists, physical therapy, any type of diagnostic testing that you may need, such as MRIs or EMGs, God forbid surgery, post-operative care, home care in special limited circumstances, transportation to and from the doctors. Big thing that a lot of people leave out and have workers' compensation cases and they don't get benefits for their transportation expenses. Prescription medication, any type of medical assisted devices such as braces, canes, walkers, things of that nature. Hopefully you guys will never need those things, but if you do, they're all covered, again, without any out-of-pocket expense. You're also entitled to be compensated for any time from work that you miss as a result of your accident. And again, if you're out of work as a result of other types of factors, economic factors, layoffs, things of that nature, you still may get compensated for your injury, but you can't get ongoing weekly benefits. That weekly benefit is only there if you're out of work specifically because of the work accident. And the medical reports that you get from the doctors is actually the evidence in your case. So if you have a workers' compensation case and you're out of work, it's advisable to see the doctor at least once a month. Not the physical therapist, you may be seeing the therapist more often than that, or getting some type of occupational therapy, but you want to see the actual doctor once a month so he could provide the proper reporting. If there's a lapse in the reporting, then there's a lapse in evidence, and that can mean a lapse in your payments. So obviously we want to avoid that. You're also entitled to continued benefits if you go back to work, but you go back to work in a limited capacity, earning less money. Meaning that, let's say for example, your regular job is basically doing heavy labor, and you get hurt and you can't do that heavy labor, so you go back to work doing light duty, possibly in an office or doing some type of lighter work. But as a result of that lighter work, you're also making less money. Well, workers' compensation can help make up some of that difference. That's called a reduced earnings claim. So if you're ever in that situation, you want to, again, continue to see the doctor so you can document your continuing disability, and you also want to keep records of your earnings, your pay stubs each week, your W-2s and things of that nature, so you can show that you're making less money as a result of that continued disability. And under the compensation law, there's also provisions that entitle you for any type of permanent injury or residual damage to an extremity. We're talking about anything other than your head, your neck, or your back. Things like your shoulder, your foot, fingers, toes. If you injure these things, even if you don't miss a day from work, you're entitled to an award based upon the permanent damage that you have to those parts of the body. Any of you guys that are familiar with workers' compensation may have heard the term scheduled loss of use. All right, and that's the award for the permanent damage that you can get for any extremity. We mentioned that you're entitled to workers' comp as a result of a work-related accident or occupational condition. Obviously, an accident, a slip and fall, a motor vehicle accident, things of that nature, that's common sense. But there are also what's called occupational claims. An occupational claim is not something that you can point to and say, well, I got hurt on this particular day, or I lifted something and pulled my back. It's developing a condition based upon the repetitive nature of your work. Easy example, a butcher, constantly on the meat slicer every day, back and forth. Develops a condition with his elbow, epicondylitis, or some type of problem with his shoulder, his rotator cuff. He may not have felt a pop or a pull on a particular day. It's just doing that type of work for so many years over and over again, he's now developed a condition. That's something that you covered under the compensation law. You can get that treated and you can be compensated monetarily for that.